A total of 231 people have applied to act as independent monitors for the Bahrain election 2018. The monitors represent 4 NGOs: Bahrain Transparency Association (BTA), Bahrain Jurist Society (BJS), Bahrain Public Relations Association (BPRA), and Bahrain Human Rights Watch Society (BHRWS), in addition to the National Institute for Human Rights (NIHR). Let us take a look at the requirements for electoral monitoring and the rights and duties of monitors during the elections with Assistant Counselor at Legislation and Legal Opinions Commission, Ibrahim Al-Busmait.
In order to maximize the democratic gains, enhance the impartiality of the electoral process, which is confirmed by full judicial supervision at all stages, and emphasize the community partnership, the Supreme Committee for General Supervision of the Soundness of Elections decided to involve civil society institutions in the neutral national monitoring. Election monitoring means all acts of monitoring and observation of the electoral process by field-based follow-up of the electoral process and collecting its data objectively with impartiality and neutrality in order to ensure the proper application of the procedures related to the electoral process and monitor the violations related thereto. The requirements for electoral monitoring are to be a Bahraini national with good reputation and enjoying full civil and political rights, not to be a member of any of the political societies, not to be a candidate nor a candidate's agent, legal agent, or recommender, to monitor under the name of civil society institution that he or she follows, and that doesn't mean the requirement to have a membership in such institution. The rules of submission of the electoral monitoring request are as follows. The civil society institution that wishes to monitor shall submit its application in writing until Monday, the 5th of November 2018 to the Supreme Committee for General Supervision of the Soundness of Elections. Applications shall be submitted in the 3rd floor of the Ministry of Justice, Islamic Affairs and Endowments in the diplomatic area during official working hours. The application shall be accompanied by forms of the monitors' quartet names, their personal ID numbers, and 2 personal photos through filling out the specific forms on the official website of the elections, www.vote.bh. Each society of civil society institutions participating in the national monitoring shall name a person of their choice as a coordinator between the monitors of the society and the Supreme Committee for General Supervision of the Soundness of Elections. The coordinator shall inform the Supreme Committee immediately of any violations of any party as soon as it occurs. Each monitor shall sign a declaration and a pledge stating his or her consideration and compliance with the rules and ethics of monitoring.
And now we look at the rights and duties of monitors during the elections.
The electoral monitor shall abide the following rules in performing his or her work: to have the knowledge and familiarity of the legislations, regulations, and directives related to the electoral process in order to perform his or her monitoring work professionally, objectively, and with awareness. Respect the sovereignty of law and have full compliance of the laws, regulations, and directives issued in respect of the elections. To be fully impartial in performing his or her work and shall not express any differentiation or bias to any of the authorities, political societies, candidates, or any other controversial subject related to the electoral process. Not to expose or wear anything that demonstrates any political affiliation, whether a slogan, writing, colors, or any posters related to such matter. Refrain from carrying out any electoral campaign or placing, carrying, or displaying any symbols related to the candidates. To carry out his or her work in a quiet manner, without personal intervention that would obstruct the electoral process or influence the ballot or counting processes. He or she shall not carry out any action that might prevent or impede the members of the ballot and counting committee from exercising their functions. Not to give instructions or statements carrying cancellation or curbing, explicitly or implicitly, to the decisions of the competent authorities of the elections. To carry his or her identity document at all times, as well as his or her card or license issued to him or her as a monitor, and to identify himself to the concerned authorities if requested. To disclose the constituency in which he or she has the right to vote in, and whether any of his or her relatives is a candidate or has a direct concern in the electoral process. He or she shall not interfere to provide advice, consultation, or guidance to the voters. He or she is also prohibited from influencing the freedom of voters on the ballot day or asking them about their choice before or after the ballot.
And for more about the reactions of the citizens going to vote today, we turn to our correspondent Shog Mohammed from the Isa Town Primary School polling station at the Southern Governorate. What do you have for us, Shog?
Voting station for the Southern Governorate, and I have with me a voter, Ms. Hina Al-Alawi, who was only recently on a trip and returned to Bahrain and came immediately here to the voting station to cast her ballot. Ms. Hina, can you please tell me how you're feeling today?
I feel very proud for our country to go through all these votings, and I think I've just returned from a short trip, and I'm glad that I can come today and vote and give my voice to the candidates here. This year I think it's a very, very special year because we have so many women that they are good candidates to give our voice, and also this is I'm supporting the Women Association under Her Royal Highness Sheikha Sabiksha, and I really strongly recommend everyone to come and give their voice for the prosperity of our country, and we hope that we see our country shine above all this world, and you know, and our country's name come in the developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hina. And you've raised an excellent point. This year we have so many female candidates, the highest in history, and it makes me proud as a woman. Hina said it made her proud, and we're all very excited to see the potentials that these women can create and what they can achieve by being in this role. Thank you, and it's back to you.
Thank you, Shog. We are continuing with our live coverage of the second round of the Parliamentary Municipal Council elections. We'll take this short break and we'll be right back.
الرايح حاكمها
Welcome back to our live coverage of the second round of the 5th parliamentary and municipal elections of the Kingdom of Bahrain. Now, a total of 231 people have applied to act as independent monitors for the Bahrain election 2018. The monitors represent 4 NGOs: Bahrain Transparency Association, Bahraini Jurist Society, Bahrain Public Relations Association, and Bahrain Human Rights Watch Society, in addition to the National Institution for Human Rights. Electoral monitoring covers all stages of the election process. Monitors will examine the conduct of candidates, political societies, and other civil institutions to ensure they abide by electoral laws. They will also monitor the conduct of voters, citizens, and individuals in regards to abiding with electoral laws, and will observe the use of places of worship and use of religious discourse to promote candidates or disparage others. They will also monitor any other violations considered punishable according to the relevant laws. And on this issue, we are joined by Dr. Khalifa Al-Fadl, who is the Secretary General of the National Institution for Human Rights. Hello, Dr. Fadl. Thank you for joining us and for agreeing to do this interview.
My pleasure to be here today.
To begin with, Dr. Fadl, we want to basically explore your evaluations of the democratic process in Bahrain. This is a very special day for us here in Bahrain. We started off last week with the 5th parliamentary elections. Today is the second round of the vote. How do you assess the democratic process?
Well, indeed, democracy in Bahrain is a very progressive notion that was reflected in the principles of the National Action Charter, which had an overwhelming 98.4% approval by the Bahraini population in 2001. Of course, the constitutional amendments in 2002 also reflected a commitment to democracy in the Kingdom of Bahrain. However, what's striking and one of the issues that we're observing actually is that the right to democracy in the Bahraini context is beyond procedures. It's beyond the procedures of free and fair elections done on a periodic basis, as reflected in international human rights benchmarks, not limited to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and other international instruments and declarations. This is because the observation concludes, nonetheless, that the democratic process in Bahrain made democracy and the right to political participation as a tool to achieve further rights and entitlements. That has been indeed reflected since 2001 in the context of the Kingdom of Bahrain, where we have observed that further rights and freedoms have been afforded to the Bahraini population through the ballot box.
Dr. Fadl, we saw a number being used very widely this past week, and we're very proud of this voter turnout percentage of 67%. What does this number mean?
Well, indeed, it's not a surprise actually to see that 67% of the Bahraini electorate went to the ballot box in order to reaffirm their future and their right to political participation. It's not a surprise indeed. However, what it means, at least to human rights defenders and those who have interest in political participation, is that there's an overlapping national consensus based on the principles of pluralism, tolerance, and human rights. That indeed has been reflected in the 67% that went to the ballot box, and it indeed shows that the calls from some rogue capitals were not reflected in the electoral process, and the Bahraini population and the electorate indeed believe in their democratic system, believe in their constitution, believe that they could make a difference, and they will, hopefully, with the second round today.
Dr. Fadl, today Bahrain celebrates Bahraini Women's Day, and all the efforts of Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa, the President of the Supreme Council for Women, and women in different fields of work, especially that the theme this year is women in legislative work. How do you assess the reflection of this progress in women's involvement in the daily life in Bahrain through the legislative process with the elections?
Well, in the beginning, I'd like to congratulate Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa, wife of His Majesty the King and President of the Supreme Council for Women, on her role actually in the promotion of women's rights here in Bahrain, where indeed it had become instrumental in the whole human rights situation here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. I also congratulate the members, the Secretary General, and all of those in the Supreme Council for Women for their role, actually, that makes us all proud to be Bahrainis nonetheless. I take this opportunity as well, indeed, to reflect and to commend the 56% of women that came to the female voters that came to vote in the first round of this election. Of course, Bahrain is very progressive with regard to women's rights. Since the 1930s, women had the right to vote in Bahrain, while in many developed nations, European nations actually, they only had that right in 1971. So that shows indeed that Bahraini females were always essential in our democratic process, and we indeed are proud not only as human rights defenders but as individuals here in the Bahraini society.
Dr. Fadl will carry on with the discussions, but we'll just turn to our correspondent, Yasmin Ibrahim. Do we have Yasmin with us? Yasmin, could you please fill us in as to what the atmosphere is like where you're at?
Hi, Mohammed. Of course, as you previously mentioned, that one member of the parliament was declared an outright winner in the capital governorate. 62 candidates are now in the running for the second round, with 31 seats. I must mention that the huge participation of women also
Yes, Yasmin, we can hear you. Can you hear us? There seems to be some technical difficulties. We'll try to get back to Yasmin at a later point in the program. Dr. Fadl, if we zero into the role of the NIHR right now, the National Institution for Human Rights, could you brief us as to what your role is in the whole electoral, in general, and in the whole electoral process as well?
Well, the National Institution for Human Rights was established as an independent human rights oversight body in the Kingdom of Bahrain in 2009 by a royal order by His Majesty the King. We see it as part of His Majesty's reform project because it oversights the human rights situation in the Kingdom of Bahrain on an independent capacity. The National Institution for Human Rights was established based on the Paris Principles governing national human rights institutions that was endorsed by the UN General Assembly and carries its mandate on an independent and unbiased manner. The objectives of the National Human Rights Institution in the Kingdom of Bahrain is to, it has a complaints mechanism where it receives complaints and assistance requests from citizens and residents here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And last year alone, we received 484 complaints. And this year, so far, is a little above 400. Compared to 66 only in 2015. The National Institution for Human Rights has launched the first toll-free human rights hotline in the GCC, and that was in 2017, and thus the rise in the number of complaints that has been received by the institution. The National Institution as well trains individuals and raises awareness about human rights to the Bahraini society. So far this year, we've trained 2,515 individuals on basic human rights principles, and our audience was not limited to law enforcement officers, school pupils, postgraduate students, university students, academics, lawyers, and members of the general public. We also had a customized program with the NSA, the National Security Agency, where we have successfully trained 160 of their personnel on basic and fundamental human rights. Having said that, of course, the election process is a human right, where the right to political participation is a human right. And quite interestingly, that's the only right limited to citizens. While all rights are universal, the right to political participation is limited to citizens. So that's why we are observers in this election. What we've done so far, we started by training the observers, the independent observers, and we have issued a comprehensive form regarding any alleged, on monitoring any alleged violation that may occur during the electoral process. And we have our teams distributed in all polling stations, all 54 polling stations, general polling stations and other polling stations. And they are observing, as we speak, the electoral process. I'm sure your colleague Yasmin perhaps might run into one or two of them.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned Yasmin. We'll try turning back to her now. Yasmin, can you hear us?
Hi, Mohammed. As I was saying earlier, following last week's massive turnout, we're still carrying on this national success as huge crowds of people walk in and to vote and cast their ballots. 62 candidates are now in the second round for the 31 vacant seats. Just like I've mentioned earlier, 9 seats are left in the capital governorate. As I was saying earlier, the huge participation of women coming in to cast their votes only tells us or reflects their presence in the political life and the march led by His Majesty the King.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. We now turn to Hiba Abdel Ghaffar from the Northern Governorate at Ahd Zahar School. Hiba, can you hear us?
Hello, Mohammed. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Yes, Hiba, do you have any updates for us? Can you tell us what the atmosphere is like, and can you even talk about the monitoring schemes that are there to ensure the transparency of the whole electoral process?
Okay, as for the atmosphere, the numbers of people and voters are increasing as time passes by. There is presence for women, men, even families. Everyone is here, so it's a continued success. When I talk about the monitors, they are doing their job objectively, professionally, and with awareness. It's very clear that they know the rules and that they are abiding with the regulations and monitoring ethics. Even with, starting with their clothes, they don't wear anything or expose anything that demonstrates a political affiliation or a personal bias through a logo, a writing, or even a color. They are watching carefully the balloting process without any personal interference. They don't interfere with the voters. They don't give them guidance or even ask them who they will choose before or after the balloting process. They are just making sure everything is going well, and of course, if there are any violations, they would report them directly, and thank God we do not have any violations here. So in a nutshell, they are doing their job with impartiality and neutrality, and they are very organized. We have people here from 4 NGOs. We have Bahrain Public Relations Association, Bahrain Transparency Association. We have Bahrain Human Rights Watch Society. We have Bahrain Jurist Society, in addition to the National Institution for Human Rights. So nothing can prove better the integrity and the soundness of these elections. That's all for now.
Thank you very much, Hiba. We'll get back to you a little bit later in the program. Dr. Khalifa Al-Fadl, Hiba just walked us through what a monitor would do in case of violations. If we were to explore this further and look at the process of how monitors would flag this violation and what the process is.
Well, with regard to the National Institution for Human Rights, we have set up some policies and procedures based on international best practice regarding monitoring the elections. That was based on, not limited to, the IPU Declaration on Free and Fair Elections, the International Parliamentary Union that is, and well, the idea or the methodology that our institution has taken into account that a monitor needs to be silent. Mm-hmm. The monitor cannot interfere directly in the electoral process. The role of monitors generally is to complement the role of the judiciary, because elections are supervised by the judiciary, which is an independent body nonetheless, as per the Constitution and relative jurisdictions. Having said that, what we do in our institution is that all of our monitors have their forms with them. If there is any alleged violation, we will take the violation, he will submit the violation to the committee that was established to monitor the elections within the National Institution for Human Rights, and it will further take it to the concerned authorities. However, in the same time, the National Institution for Human Rights will issue a comprehensive report after the end of the second round of the election, and that report will be available to the general public and will be distributed to all the concerned bodies within the Kingdom of Bahrain or beyond its borders.
Now, the monitors' role obviously is spread throughout the day of the election, but are there specific times where the role is heightened, maybe with the counting process at the end of the balloting?
Well, the role of monitors actually, that's a very important question. The role of monitors, they don't only observe any alleged violations inside the polling station. They also observe around the polling station if there is any advertisement, the use of children, or any electoral violations nonetheless. We have been doing that in the National Institution for Human Rights. There has been some observations, and we take that into account. Before the polls start, monitors need to be available in order to observe the ballot boxes are empty. So that is as well one of the important factors that we take into account. And of course, as you said earlier, the counting process is also, not of equal importance, but it is very, very important nonetheless, where our monitors are available in the polling stations to observe that exercise.
From a monitoring standpoint, how would you assess last week's voting process?
Well, we could all affirm that there was no boycott to the election. That is the most important observation.
Yes.
That the sad calls that came from some rogue capitals by individuals who do not want the prosperity of Bahrain all failed. Bahrainis triumphed in the first round of the election. From my personal observation and my team's personal observations as well, we will triumph again in this second round, and 67% told those intolerant actors that they have no place and they cannot influence the Bahraini election. That is the biggest observation nonetheless. The other observation so far is that the elections are free and fair, not only by international standards, but in accordance with the moral convictions of the Bahraini society. The elections are free and fair.
Indeed, and the 67% voter turnout is a testament that these calls to boycott were unheard, and the Bahrainis upheld their right to make their voices heard and went to the polls. Dr. Al-Fadl, how do you value the cooperation between the four NGOs in implementing these duties?
Well, the NGOs involved in the electoral process and observing the elections in Bahrain are nonetheless, it shows that Bahrain has a mature civil society that can take on such tasks in an unbiased form. And that indeed is one of the issues that will be reflected in our comprehensive report, and that we take into serious consideration and appreciation as a national human rights oversight body.
From our correspondence and from the footage that we see from the polling stations, we see a lot of parents bringing in their children to the polling center. We see a lot of first-time voters excited to go and cast their ballot. How are the youth an important element in this democratic march in Bahrain?
Well, I think it's quite important for the youth to be involved in this democratic march here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. I believe that the youth voters will have a great influence on the results of the elections. So far, I believe there have been some youth candidates that made it to Parliament and to the municipal councils, and I believe that is very important, well, we need to comprehend that our democratic system is relatively young, and therefore the youth will have a great voice and a great impact in their future and the future of Bahrain. Again, you know, if you allow me, you know, I believe that the youth turnout, the female turnout, and the success of the general election here in Bahrain perhaps reaffirms the principle that liberty can only be limited for the sake of liberty. And that indeed is reflected in our electoral process, which has been commended by all reasonable individuals.
Dr. Khalifa, a message from this platform that you would like to deliver to the Bahraini citizens, what would it be?
Well, I would encourage everyone to vote. I would encourage everyone to be part of this democratic process. I would encourage all individuals who have any observations about the elections, who have witnessed or noticed any alleged violations, to contact the National Institution for Human Rights via its toll-free hotline 800-1144. We're here to help, and we're here to listen, and it's our role to observe any violations if they may occur.
I'm going to ask you to predict the future now, and where do you see this democratic march going in the future?
Well, I see that we're going to have an effective parliament. I see that the individuals in Bahrain have taken their role, and I see that everyone will gain the fruits of participation very soon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalifa Al-Fadl, the Secretary General of the National Institute for Human Rights. Thank you very much for your time. I know you have a busy schedule ahead of you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Our coverage continues, dear viewers, but we'll take this short break and we'll be back. Our coverage continues for the second round of the parliamentary and municipal elections. And we have with us in the guest, as our guest in the studio, Ms. Hala Ramzi, Shura Council member. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you for having me on this special day and occasion. And let me start first by congratulating every Bahraini woman for this day, Bahraini Women's Day. And of course, special thanks goes to Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa for having set this day as to honor every Bahraini woman, and also especially today that it's honoring women in legislative and municipal field work.
Your Excellency, to begin with, Bahrain is witnessing one of its democratic processes this past week. We had the first round last Saturday, we have the second round today. How do you evaluate this democratic process in Bahrain?
Of course, since His Majesty's start of reform project in 2002, Bahrain has seen a very big change in people's rights, in practicing their rights also. Democracy is new to Bahrain, but we had the willingness to go ahead with him, with His Majesty the King. With the National Charter, we know that people voted with 98%, which is a very big percentage, and rarely you see this such a percentage in other countries. Mm-hmm. So really, honestly speaking, it's very important for Bahrain, for the developed Bahrain that we are all looking for. And it's important that we try to pass this knowledge and the experience that we are now building to the new generation, so that they can continue the march to the democratic Bahrain that we are all looking forward to.
Your Excellency, today we celebrate 15 years of the Bahraini woman being in elected office and 20 years of being in Shura Council. And we've also witnessed a marked increase in women participation, be it candidates or voters with the voter turnout, a 56% increase, in fact. How do you value the representation of women in the legislative authority?
Of course, it's very important. I mean, women's action or women's presence in various fields in the country really shows how developed this country is. So having women represented in the legislative system and the municipal work is important, and we've seen how it has increased from 2002 till today with a very short period. 16 years is a short period for a democracy really to benefit from it. But yet we see that we started with one female, one woman in 2002, and today we have 3 in the municipal council and 3 in the House of Representatives. Women as a whole in the legislative authority are 15%, account for 15%. They had around 42% of the committees. So there is a strong presence of women, and it's really an example. We are setting the example to tell the society, Bahraini society, how women perform in legislative and municipal work when they are given the chance to do it. So again, having clearly mentioned in the Constitution the rights of women and the equality of women, this all gave us the strength to go ahead, to work harder, and to prove that women can be as efficient as men, and that we have all the qualities that men have, and we can work together in a partnership to build and develop Bahrain as we want.
Your Excellency, you mentioned all these prerequisites and supporting mechanisms put forth by the government, represented by His Majesty the King and Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika, the President of the Supreme Council for Women. How do you value such support and the constant successes that we see of women, especially in the legislative authority?
Of course, we cannot ignore the great efforts that the Supreme Council of Women, chaired by Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika, in efforts of empowering women and at the same time development of women. The the Supreme Council of Women has offered lots of courses, lots of training programs, roundtable discussions, brainstorming. All these have created a supporting environment for women. Of course, at the beginning there was a strategic plan. The whole plan was based on first empowering women, and with those successful projects, actually empowering women for financially, economically, as well as politically, because if a woman doesn't feel the stability in the society, she won't be able to perform politically. So they both go together, really. So after empowering women and with the successfulness of the projects that has been available, I think the strategy now is really to develop women by herself, to enable her to develop herself by continuous education, by continuous skill learning, enhancement of her abilities, which will make her better shine in all fields of the society, and again, as I said, an equal partner to building Bahrain and the development of the Bahraini society.
Your Excellency, being a woman in a legislative body and a legislative authority, do you believe that there is a shift in Bahraini's acceptance or acceptability of women in such roles?
Yes, I think the Bahraini society has reached to sort of maturity in the political awareness, you know. People are now accepting women to go out and to represent them. And I mean, this is clearly from the results of the first round of the election, where we have two females who have won it from the first go with a very high percentage. And also in 2014, the 3 female that won their seats won it in constitutions that were mainly dominated by men. So all these really are testaments that we are heading in the right way. The Bahraini society is being politically aware and mature, and it's important that we shed the light on this awareness, so that others know, not only in Bahrain but also around us, how powerful the Bahraini society is and how they believe in the ability of women to perform and to carry their concerns to the legislative authority and try to solve it.
We are witnessing great progress when it comes to women achievements and women entering this legislative field. And, you know, like you said, 2 candidates won it from the first round last week. But the number of men still outweigh the number of women. And hopefully this will change in the future, inshallah. But from your point of view, what are the elements that, first of all, are the women candidates ready for the 2018 elections to represent people?
Of course, I think they are definitely ready with all the training that was offered, really, either by the Supreme Council of Women or by other institutions, civil society institutions, the Bahrain Political Development Institution. All these have offered courses and training for those who are considering to be candidates. Yes, with this increased number, 39 female running for election for 2018, I think this shows how women are willing to take such a challenge, to accept the challenge. Of course, it's definitely a challenge, you know.
True.
And,
for men and women.
And of course, the numbers will grow, I'm sure, because with the experience that we are building, for example, there are still 9 female that are running in the second round, and this shows that they are they're getting the majority of the voices in their constituencies. So again, we might see, for example, 11 female in this coming council, which is really, to me, it's a great achievement.
And it also shows that women are empowered and not afraid to be taking that challenge and go out there and you know, just like men, run for office and believe in themselves as powerful representatives of the
Exactly.
constituents that
Exactly.
they are marketing for. Your Excellency, in your view, what are the elements that women candidates should have in order to compete and win in the elections?
Okay, it's not really just women. I would say it runs for both male and female candidates, of course, because we have to bear in mind that the person running as a candidate or who would win, he is the person or she is going to be having a great influence in decision making and policy setting, you know, and they represent the majority of their constituency. So I think the main quality, I would say, is fear of God, honesty, integrity, also caring for the people and loving them. Today, the voter is intelligent, you know, and has got experience in knowing how to select the people that will represent him. So a woman or any candidate really should bear in mind that I cannot just say anything that I win. No, that I have to be honest, I have to be intelligent, I have to show the qualities. Today, for example, your photo would represent your qualities, you know.
True.
So yes, and of course, maybe one of the major things is the technical skills that a candidate needs to do to meet the challenges that he will face or she will face, of course. And I think should also have a good campaign, well-planned campaign to run or to be able to show, to spread the message, and and to explain her program and what she's planning to do, and what is the new concepts or new ideas that she will be working on that makes her different than
the other candidates. Yeah, be it male or female.
Exactly.
Because these outreach messages and where you decipher and explain your program to the undecided voter especially could help sway the vote in your direction. Your Excellency, today we're trying to explain the electoral process in Bahrain, and because of the 2001 National Action Charter, which was endorsed by 98.4% of the population, followed by the Constitution in 2002, there was the birth of the National Assembly, which you are a part of. So the birth of the bicameral system, the Shura Council, and the Representative Council. How do these councils differ, and what is the mechanism of work in this National Assembly?
Okay, the Shura Council is more of a legislative body. We review bills, we review amendments to laws. We suggest also amendments to laws. But the House of Representatives has, of course, the same legislative authority as well as the no, I mean the check on the government on what they do. Okay, they have to monitor the government's progress against the program that they present at the beginning of every term, and they have the tools to ask ministers, to ask any official in the government of the progress done and why goals have not been met or projects have not been completed according to the government's program. You know, every term the government gives us the program for the next 4 years, what they are planning to do, projects, infrastructure projects, you know. So all these things is on the table of the House of Representatives, where they have to monitor, ask, check, make sure that the government is working on the same grounds that they have promised that they will do. Also the budget every 2 years. All these tools are mainly with the House of Representatives. They have the power to go after the government and push them to complete or to accomplish what they have promised they will do. But of course, for the Shura Council, it's mainly the laws that we are passing and reviewing every time.
And of course, this is a testament of the government's keenness, led by His Majesty the King, to make sure that the citizens' voices are heard and that they have a say in the way their country is being run.
Of course, and the important thing is that, at least to me, I see it, is the representative of minorities in the Shura Council. For example, you know, Bahrain has various people from different ethnics, and His Majesty the King is keen really to represent people from different religions in the Shura Council. So, for example, I represent the Christian community, my colleague represents a Jewish community, and of course the Muslims in the Shura Council. So I think this is an important element of the democracy that our king is looking for, that we all live in harmony, there is no discrimination, and all voices are being heard either through the House of Representatives or even in the Shura Council.
Your Excellency, we want to explore this point of tolerance a bit further, but we'll go to one of our correspondents and we'll come back to continue the discussions. Dear viewers, we are now joined by Shogh Mohammed, I believe, is that right, Control? By Shogh Mohammed. And recognizing that comprehensive development cannot be achieved without the active participation of different people, we have Shogh Mohammed with us on the line. Shogh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mohammed.
Do you have any updates for us?
Well, Mohammed, I think it's important to remember that today we're celebrating Bahraini Women's Day on the same day that people are also celebrating the fact that there are so many female candidates running for office. And it's such an exciting atmosphere. Women are rushing to vote and support each other. Women are excited about the possibilities that this creates for us in the future. Young girls are very interested to know more about the voting process and the parliamentary and municipal elections. It's also important to keep in mind that our presence here today and all of this would not have been possible without the reform process of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. We are lucky in Bahrain to have and to witness this kind of democratic process. We are lucky to have a leadership that believes in free and fair elections and a king that passionately upholds our democratic rights. It is a huge responsibility to come here and vote and try to make the right decision for not only yourself, but for your family, your constituency. So it's important to not take this lightly. I urge everyone to come and vote, men and women alike, people of all ages, first-time voters or voters who have been voting since 2002. Please come here, make your voice heard. Last week we had the largest turnout of voters in history, so why not try to get an even larger number today?
Indeed, Shogh, like you rightly said, we are very proud of this right that has been given to us by our government, and we're also proud of the Bahraini people who are going out there to make their voices heard, to have a say in the way their country is run. Thank you very much, Shogh. Are we joined by our correspondent? Okay, so we'll just carry on with the discussions with Shura Council member Hala Ramzi. Before we went to our correspondent, Shogh, we were talking about the representation of minorities in the Shura Council and the assurances that all people in Bahrain are basically represented in the legislative authority. What does that speak, or what does that say about the value of tolerance within the government and the Bahraini society?
Of course, I think Bahrain is really unique in this aspect because Bahrain has always been known for its tolerance and the coexistence of people since long ages, but the international community was not aware of it. Today, being represented in the Shura Council, and I say it all the time wherever I go, I'm very proud of it, and it really shows how Bahrain values its people, no matter what religion they have or what ethnic they come from, their backgrounds. It's important, it's very much important because, again, Bahrain is unique not only on the regional side but as an international side. I haven't seen actually such a representation or such the keenness of representation of various ethnics, religions in other parliaments.
True.
So it gives a very strong and clear idea about His Majesty's reform project, including everyone in Bahrain. He is not excluding anyone on the island, living on the island, working in the island, being honest, being sincere in his work, you know. His Majesty really values the person with his qualities, his effectiveness, and I think this is a major element in Bahrain society, which has been translated by His Majesty in his vision to have this bicameral setup, and he's insisting on it, which I think is the strength of Bahrain and should continue this way so that no one feels that he is left out.
Your Excellency, the Shura and Representative Council tackled so many issues in the recent times, and there are many challenges that are coming ahead. Could you give us a brief of what major issues you've had to tackle and what is the way forward?
Of course, in the previous terms, we had, for example, the main law that we all are very proud of is the family law, which was signed off in 2017. It's a very important law because we were struggling for it really for years to have it in the shape it is today, taking care of family members as a whole, not only females, not only women, but the women, the men, the child. Every member of the society is being taken care of by this law. We also have the child law. Again, it's one of the major laws that were passed, I think, in 2012, maybe. Again, which makes sure that at least our children are kept safe, are brought up in the proper way. We avoid misuse of children. We avoid anything that would harm a child, which aims to ensure that we have a healthy society in the future. Children are the main cell of the society, you know. So unless you properly protect them, you will not have a healthy society in the future. We have also we have made lots of amendments to the labor law, to health law, the health insurance, and also there was a very old law that was concerning health issues. The public health law. So I mean, we've tackled various laws in various fields, you know, and I think there is quite a big number of laws that were, you know, like marks in the progress of the legislative system. And of course, things just continue to come. I mean, we have the value-added tax that's coming very soon. We have lots of changes because, I mean, any development will always come through bottlenecks, challenges, and we have to meet all these. So I think there is still challenges to come, and the legislative authority, as well as the municipal authority, will have a lot of projects to do in the coming future.
Mrs. Ramzi, the democratic rights that have been given to Bahraini citizens, you know, with the elections and, you know, the first round, the second round happening now in 2018, some people are calling for the boycott of these elections, or some people have lost the trust in the legislative authority as a whole. And that's very sad to hear, to be honest. But if you have a message that you'd like to deliver to these people to reassure of the importance of this democratic march, what would it be?
I personally believe that unless we do practice our rights, okay, then we are doing wrong. Because if I don't practice, I will never learn. If we are blaming the previous House of Representatives or any body, okay, who selected it? Okay, it's we who voted for them. So at least I will learn when I go and put my vote. I know I'm trying to choose the best as much as I can. Going and seeing that this person I chose was not the right person, then I will go again for the second round, for the third term, fourth term, fifth term, until I really feel that I am satisfied with the person that I have chosen to represent me and to take my voice to the legislative system. So without practicing it, I don't think that we are doing any good to our reform. I don't think a sincere person who is really looking for democracy would boycott elections. Boycotting will not help at all.
True.
It's a negative thing. It will not give me any experience. It will not show even that I have any interest in the democracy, in the march to democracy. So unless we practice it, every person has to, and I always say that, even if I'm not happy with the candidates that are available, even if I feel that it's not what I want, but I have to go and give my vote, select the person, and if he doesn't do good, talk to him. If he doesn't do good, next time I know that it's not this is not the program that I'm looking for. I'll be looking for someone else. So again, we learn by practice.
True.
Even in education, if you don't practice, you don't learn.
And like
so
you said,
we have to practice democracy, and this is what I really always say. And I urge people to go and vote, because we really want our democracy to be a successful one, and we want to see the results. And I think candidates this time are different than the previous years, with different backgrounds, with their enthusiasm to really do something. I think we have to take this choice. Everyone has to take this opportunity, really, to try and succeed in choosing the proper candidate, the effective candidate that will speak on my behalf.
Like you said, Your Excellency, it is indeed an evolving process, and you know, it doesn't mean that you should not practice your right, but you know, when you do it and then you learn from it, and then when you do it the second time, you can hold your candidate accountable, or you can, like you said, like you rightly said, choose another candidate altogether. But the important thing is you uphold your right of making your voices heard.
Of course.
Your Excellency, we'll continue the discussion, but dear viewers, we'll take this short break and we'll be back to carry on with the discussion.
الشعر غانية تمدحك كل أمجادك المرئية أشوف مجد